Hi everybody, Ed here, the RV Trucker. This is Thanksgiving weekend. Hope everybody had a good holiday. I left the house on Wednesday and drove 170 miles for Thanksgiving dinner, which we had on Thursday. And then Thursday evening I left there and drove about 175 miles to a dog show. I'm sitting here getting this video edited out. So I left off where I was in the International TranStar with the flatbed, and every one of these trucks has some kind of a story. I can tell you the most interesting story with that International was I had one of the most vicious tire changes that I had. I was between Barstow, California and Mojave, California, and I blew a tire. It was 115 degrees out or so, and I pulled off under the underpass that crosses over to Edwards Air Force Base. So I had to get my jack out, my tire tools and all that stuff, and jack it up, pull the tire off. It was the Dayton's with the wheel wedges. Pull the spare tire down, swap it out, make sure it ran true, run all the wheel wedges in, and make sure it ran true. But it was so hot. I was absolutely just soaked. And we used to carry a Rubbermaid thermos which held about a gallon of drink. We used to stop and fill it up full of ice, and then have them top it off with iced tea. And I think I went through that whole jug of tea changing that tire, as hot as it was out. And then I had to pack everything up and put it away, jump in the truck, try to cool down a bit, which the air conditioner was just so. But anyway, every one of these trucks has a story like that. Anyhow, I drove that International for a while with the flatbed, and I ran into an old feller that had an old conventional Freightliner with a Cummins in it, and he was trying to make ends meet, and we got to be good friends. And I left the company with the International TranStar and went out to California where he lived, specifically Apple Valley, and I made a run with him from there to Florida and back, and we were trying to set up a deal with another truck. It was a cab over Kenworth K100. Cab's 8 foot wide and 9 foot deep. It had a big bed. It had I think a 350 Cummins with a 13 speed, aluminum frame, Outlaw aluminum wheels, and manual steering. And I ran that truck for a while, wherever I could go, coast to coast, New Jersey, wherever, and back to California. Well, I left that job. I left that after a while because it wasn't panning out real good, but it did help him out. I left there and I went back home, and I went to work for a local company. They had one semi truck and one straight box truck, and they had another truck with a trailer pulling building panels. They were into the house building deal, and I would haul all of the staircases and hand railing and all that stuff for new houses, which was all down in the Baltimore, Washington DC area, Arlington, Virginia, Eastern Shore, wherever. I would leave early in the morning and make my rounds at these job sites and unload everything by hand Some of these staircases were 13 risers high. They were pretty big, and back then I could get one up and get it on my shoulder and go with it. I don't know if I could do that anymore. Real fancy oak hand railing, just all kinds of building stuff. Then they had bought a bunch of new equipment, building equipment, you know, to create these building panels and things like that. And then all of a sudden the house building slowed down to nothing, and it really hurt bad, and they ended up having to close up the company. So I left there, and I had a friend that was driving the box truck, and we decided to go look for another job. And we checked out about 8 different companies from West Virginia to Pennsylvania on the I-81 corridor. And basically the last one that I went to check out was a pretty good company, and it turned out to be one of the best companies that I ever worked for. I jumped in I think it was a 1989 Peterbilt with the 3406C Cat in it, 10-speed transmission, and started running coast to coast, hauling dry goods out and produce back to the East Coast. I drove for that company for quite a while, and in 1995, I think it was November of 95, they was getting in brand new Pete's with 3406E model cat in them, double bunk, and I really liked the truck that I was in. I was comfortable with it. I knew every little quirk about it. I went and told the owner, I said, man, you got all these guys that are wanting a new truck. I said, I can wait, I don't need a new truck. And he looked me straight I told him my old truck fit like an old pair of shoes, and he looked at me dead on and said, well, it's time for you to get a new pair of shoes. So in November of 95, a 96 Pete came in. They got it all prepped and ready, and I jumped into that Pete. While all this was going on with that company, and I had been with them for a few years, quite a few years, and I was training new drivers that got out of truck driving school. You know, they thought they knew everything from the truck driving school, so they would hop in the truck and we would head to the West Coast, and that was a real eye-opener for the students. But they would run with me for a minimum of 2 weeks, and I had to grade them every week, and then they had to run with somebody else for 2 weeks, a different trainer, and then at that point in time, if everything panned out, would get assigned a truck of their own. The company just didn't want to hand anybody a fairly new Peterbilt and say have a good day. So there was a lot of interesting situations with the trainees, both good and bad, and I turned out some of the best drivers that they had. And like one of the stories was, we would be out in Montana, and I can't remember, there was a big grade there on I-90 going down for, I don't know, 6% for 10 miles or 8 miles, something like that. And they would gear down and throw the Jake brakes on, and I would reach over, not being mean but trying to train, I'd reach over and shut the Jakes off. And they said, what are you doing? And I'd say, well, I want you to go down this hill without the Jake brakes. And they would say, why would I do that? I would say, well, the only thing between you and them Jake brakes is one wire, one fuse, one bad switch. I said, you need to know how to do this without the Jakes. And that's what I did. They would go down the hill, and I would coach them down the hill and teach them how how much brake to put on and how much to stay off the brake. My rule of thumb was you put your foot on the brake pedal when the tach was up, and you crack the brake valve and slowly apply the brakes and bring your speed down, watch your tach, and take your foot off of the brake and set it flat on the floorboard. If you spent more time on the brake than you did on the floorboard, you're going too fast. You're in the wrong gear. You need to gear down. So it panned out pretty good. I had a lot of good drivers. I had drivers for years after that would come up to me and thank me for the way they were taught and where everything belonged in the truck. And I had this big rule too about nothing being under the seat, around the seat, that could roll up under your feet in a pinch. But anyway, so I got that new Pete in 1990, well actually 95, November, December I think of 95. I got the 96 Pete and I was running it, and in 98 I believe it was, the company decided to start taking on owner operators. So I bought the Pete that I was in. They wanted to sell all the old ones, but I didn't want the old ones. I told them I wanted the one that I was in because nobody else had drove the truck, abused it. So I bought that truck in 98, and that was my first truck. And I stopped running the West Coast then and started running more of the East Coast. It paid more. I was in and out a lot. And then let's see, before the year was up, I can't remember when, before a year was up, I think I was in that 96 Pete for about 10 months, and I bought a Volvo to add, and I hired a driver, and things started getting interesting from there. And then before another year was up, let's see, probably 2000 maybe, bought the Pete in 98, bought the Volvo in 99, and by the end of 2000, somewhere around 2000, I bought a white, and the white had a NT88 Cummins in it with a I think it had a 13-speed. The Volvo that I had bought previously had a 10-speed in it with an NT88, and the Volvo actually became my toy truck. Eventually I changed the cam in it, rebuilt the engine, dropped the 10-speed out and put a 14.7 13-speed in it, swapped out the rear gears. I heavily modified that truck. The speed limit at the time was 65 miles an hour tops, and that truck would do 65 in direct. It would do 65 in overdrive. It all depended on how heavy, how level the ground was. I was getting excellent fuel mileage on that truck, and a lot of people won't believe it, but the NT88 with the 13-speed, I would get, the best I got was 6.02 miles per gallon. And when I hit them hills up around Scranton, Pennsylvania, I could split down and pretty much outpull a lot of these store-bought trucks. It had a lot of juice to it. I just had to watch the powerometer, keep the engine RPMs up to keep her cool. But it was a pretty good truck. Anyway, so then at that time, now I'm running 3 trucks, and I had 3 drivers at one time, and of course you always have somebody that couldn't cover a run, so I'd have to go and jump in a truck and make a run. And we had a Saturday dedicated run that I ran most of the time myself, and it kept me busy. I had very good drivers, and I had some drivers that, well, I won't tell you what I'd like to do with them, but anyway, yeah, we ran pretty hard. I was running a load out at night, deliver 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, pick up a back haul, and be back to the house hopefully by noon or 1 o'clock or something like that. So I was running to Philadelphia, New Jersey, just all over. We did have some runs that went up into Massachusetts, Maine, and they were longer runs, and every now and then I had to run out to Chicago. So I was prorated and licensed for 17 states on the East Coast, and it was not easy, and went through some personal stuff, and things kind of slowed down a bit. And when I'd have a driver that would quit or something like that, at that point in my life, I just never filled that position. So it got back to where I was running myself. I ended up selling the white right off the bat. Somebody wanted it pretty bad, and it was a really nice truck. It rode like a Cadillac. So then I was down to 2 trucks, and basically I just ran the Volvo. I really like that Volvo. I love my Peterbilt, but I really liked the performance and everything that I had out of that Volvo that I rebuilt, and I stayed in it and ran it a lot. And I stopped driving at times and flew out to the Southwest to visit the family, and drove out, and one day it just dawned on me that I do not have to keep doing this. So something clicked. I had a little over 30 years of trucking. I went back home. I unincorporated, sold the equipment, bought a huge cargo trailer, which you'll see in a future video, because I'm going to turn it into my mobile workshop. And I moved out to the Southwest and didn't look back. I really like it out in the Southwest. And so there you go. I am kind of retired, and haven't stepped foot in another truck since I sold mine, because I didn't want to get sucked back into it, until I found this white, and something just clicked on me and I had to have the white. So that's my story, and I hope you all had a good holidays. I hope you all enjoy my videos. I want to thank everybody that did leave comments. It helped out a lot, and I'll see you in the next video.